Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. I thought I would do a very quick tutorial showing you how I make these little flip up, flip out journaling spots that you probably will have seen in my journals. These are 4 variations on a theme because these little journaling spots are so easy to make. They literally are no more than 3 folds in a sheet of paper. So I'm going to put these to one side because, as I say, these are variations on a theme, and I will just run through very quickly showing you how to make these, and then we'll come back and I'll run through these with you. Okay, first off, you will need a piece of paper. Now, one tip here is I would recommend that you use fairly thin paper. I like to use this receipt paper from my vintage clog repair receipt book. Vintage book pages work absolutely fine. Normal book pages will work absolutely fine. The only thing you need to remember is the thicker your paper, the more bulk you will be adding to your journal, because these little journaling spots are actually 4 folds or 4 layers of paper before you even start doing any embellishment on top. So, as I say, I would recommend that you use fairly thin paper. For me, I tend to fairly heavily decorate my journals. That's what I love doing best. So if I have an opportunity to create a journaling spot by using thin paper, I absolutely will go for it. For me, it's a bonus. It makes my journals functional as well as, I hope, pretty. So what you need to do is you need to have a square of paper, and you need to have an accurate square. And I hate to admit it, as a crafter to fellow crafters, I cannot cut an accurate square to get true 90-degree corners. So the fail-safe method that I have found is by doing this, where you take your piece of paper, this is an oblong piece of paper as you can see, and I take one corner of the portrait orientation and I just fold it down the length of the landscape orientation. So how I do that is literally by getting a tight pinched corner here. I put my finger on it and then I pull gently on this bit on the opposite corner as I fold it down, and I fold it down the length. I then transfer my finger and burnish along it like so, and that gives you a perfect triangle, which if you cut down the length of it, this is so obvious to most of you, I'm sure, but maybe there's somebody out there that isn't aware of this. And if you just cut along that edge using your top sheet as a guide, you will end up with a perfect square. The reason I like using this method as well is because it's given me my first fold. So what you need to do now is you have your valley orientation or side, and you have your mountain side. If you can see, you've got your mountain. What you want to do is you want to have the mountain side pointing upwards. Is that right? Let me think about it. Yes, it is. So you want your mountain side in the diagonal fold pointing upwards, and then you just fold your sheet of paper in half, trying to be as accurate as you can. And the joy with this very, very thin paper is you don't really need to burnish it. What you now need to do is you open up your piece of paper, rotate it 90 degrees and fold again. okay, and open it up again. What you do now is just flip it over. So what you should have now is you should have your folds across the paper in mountain orientation, and your diagonal should be in valley orientation. Okay, so what I like to do now is turn it towards me so that you have one of the points towards you and you have your diagonal fold across horizontally in front of you. I like to take my 2 fingers, put them on either side of that diagonal fold and just gently push in. Now if you've got your folds in the right orientation, the center point should just come up like so, as you can see. And then all you need to do is just grab those points there and the back ones there and there, and just lie it down, and you will have that. So what I like to do at this stage is I just like to burnish my folds, and that's it. Literally, that is your flip up, flip out. Because if you if you lift up the first flap, you have, it's just catching, you have that. And that is all the flip up, flip out is. When I put it in my journals, I just tend to orient it that way and secure it to my page. So that is it, literally. And what you do with it now is entirely up to you. It's open to your own imagination. What I like to do is, if I bring back in these little ones, these are just my variations on a theme. This is one I've made. I've just decoupaged and layered on the front with a napkin and some vintage book page. And I would glue that to my journal page, and when I open it up, it's like so. Now, as you can see, this is some of my receipt paper, but I also backed it with some vintage book page, and I've glued it together, and that makes it a sturdier flip up, flip out journaling spot. And because both of those pieces of paper are very, very thin, it takes no space in my journal. This is another one that I've made. Excuse me. All I've done here is put a picture on the front, trimmed it to size. I've put it on this piece here, not on these pieces. So you can either, to do this, you can either open it up and glue it on the front there, or when it's folded closed, you can just measure it and glue it on the front that way. Either way works very easily. The only thing I would suggest is that if you aren't cutting it to size, your image, if you're not cutting your image to size when you glue it on the front, when you flip it over to trim it, be very careful not to trim away these folds. I can't tell you how many times I've done that, and it's so annoying, because if you do that, then when you open this journaling spot up, it all falls to bits basically. So with this little example, I've just put a trim of lace on the bottom, my image on the front, and I've actually used one of the vintage clog receipts, the top page. Now with this one, I've put a magnet on the back. I hope you can, ooh, let me get that back in frame for you. Where's my camera? Where are we? There we go. I've put a tiny magnet. You can see that dot. It's not going to focus, but I've put a tiny magnet on the back there, and I've secured it with some red tape. When I glue this into my journal, that tape will come off, but I don't want to get any glue on that magnet because it interferes with the adhesion. And the other magnet is underneath my piece of lace there. So that will stay perfectly shut on my journal, whereas this one won't. It tends to flip up. You're probably not seeing that, but you can maybe see it if I turn it sideways like that. The other way you could secure this is, before you glue it to your page, put a tiny piece of ribbon or maybe some linen thread behind there, and then tie it on the front so that you untie it and then access your journaling spot like so. This is another one that I've made just with some lace and a bit of vintage book page there. Again, I've used a magnet on the back, and I've just used some lined paper this time for my journaling spot. Sometimes in my journals you will have seen that I maybe do a little bit of layering down in this corner and that corner on the inside, so that it adds a point of interest inside my journaling spot and also hides my magnets. This one I've made with just some normal book page, and what I've done is I've put a couple of sheets of plain paper inside to act as my journaling spot, and this one I would just clip to my page using a paper clip. Really, really simple and easy. This is one I've got in progress. With this one, this is my basic template. I've got my image cut out, so I'm just going to put a snippet of glue around there. Whoops. I've cheated a little bit and cut this to size already. I just thought it would be easier for the sake of my tutorial. So just checking my orientation there. There's my image. I'm just going to stick it to the front. There's nothing to stop you actually making your image bigger than your journaling spot, but you just need to be careful that you're going to be able to open it up easily enough. I'm just going to check that it's smooth inside. So there we go, just closing it down. Here I've got some little bits of lace. I tend to save all my scraps of lace. I've got a couple of little mini tags, a little bit of lace there, a little lace flower, some white sari silk, and a little bit of, I don't know if you can see that, very, very fine organza ribbon. This was some ribbon that I had at Christmas. Where's my camera? There we go. And it's got wired edges. So rather than waste it, this is just some trimmings. When I wrapped my parcels and trimmed my ribbon after I tied my bow, I had these little bits left over. So I just trim off that edge and fray it, and then use it as scraps for my journaling. And it just gives me that little pop of colour. You probably can't pick it up on the camera. If I take it away, there you go. You can just make it out. Just gives me my pop of colour to pick up the green on my birds. This is again a scrap of lace that was white and it doesn't want to open up, tea dyed. I love this lace. It is so versatile. I can either use it as is, or I chop out the flowers, which is what I've done here. I've chopped out the flower, and I've chopped out this bottom bit to use on the corner here as part of my embellishment. So I'm just going to layer all that lot up for you. Oh, and these are some little tiny tags that I've cut out of some indenture paper. There we go. and inked round the edges. So all I would do is pop a little bit of glue down there, and because that organza ribbon is so fine, the glue tends to seep through a little bit. So I put a little piece of white sari silk lace on top. Then I'm just adding on that corner piece of, got one or two threads there, or not corner piece, that little scallop of lace. I'm just going to pop a little bit more glue underneath that sari silk because it's not sticking as I would like. And then another little piece of glue on top there, and then my flower on top, like so. Now normally I would just try using the glue that I have to pop my little tags underneath, but today I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue on the end of my tag, just a smidgen. I'm just going to put the top on my 3-in-1 beacon glue because it tends to erupt on me. And there's my little tags. So really it couldn't be any easier to embellish these little journaling spots. And I could have easily popped a magnet underneath these clusters and on the back. Here's one where I've done literally that. I've put the magnet on the back, same as the previous one, magnet on the front, and this is just a snippet of lace that I would put on top. So all I would do is take off my red tape. Oops. Use my 3-in-1 glue. Put a little bit around the magnet. I tend to like, when I'm doing these, I like to put it on the card rather than on my piece of lace so that I don't get any on my magnet. And then I just put my piece of lace on top like so. I'm just going to move that slightly forward, and the red tape holds my lace to the corner and my 3-in-1 glue holds the rest of my lace in place. And now all I would do would be to take off this red piece of tape, so that corner is sticky, put glue on here and stick it to my page like so. So really, really easy. Just very quickly before I close, another option is to maybe put a flap or a pocket on the front here. And again, it depends on how much bulk you can bear to have in your journal. If you saw my Christmas mini trifold journal, you will see that I did something fairly similar to that in that journal. And what I will do is I'll put the link to that video in the description box down below, and if I can find whereabouts it is in the video, I will also put whereabouts it is. So if it's at, say, 5 minutes 30 seconds, I will put that in the description down below to help you find this particular example. But what I did with that one was I just took a little Christmas tag and I glued it to the front. I put a piece of I think it was Christmas wrapping paper on the front, or another piece of book page. I put my little tag glued to the front, and I put a magnet at the side here, inside, and I put a little piece of layering inside to hide the magnet. I also put a magnet on this side to hide it, and I put a magnet underneath on the back here. So effectively it would all stay very sharply in place and be magnetized. It might have been overkill with the magnets, but if I show you perhaps on this one it might be easier. But then I had a little another little journaling spot that could be used, as well as inside here. So there's some ideas for making these little flip up, flip out journaling spots. Super easy. So I really hope you will have a go and try making them. They are quite fun to make, and as I say, decorating them, well, the choices are limitless. I mean, there's nothing to stop you, for example, only gluing down those edges, those three edges, and making it like a little tuck spot in there behind. So I leave it to you. I hope you enjoy making these, and thank you for letting me babble my way through yet another video with you. Thanks everybody. Take care. Love you all. Bye bye.